Okay, so picture this. It's April 2nd, 2026. It's a holiday weekend. The sun's out and families are hitting the road. On the surface, everything looks completely normal. But just beneath that surface, an invisible crisis is brewing. And honestly, the entire world is about to feel the consequences. I mean, look at this contrast. On the one hand, you've got highways jammed with people just trying to enjoy their Easter break. But on the other, behind closed doors, the highest levels of European governments are on maximum alert, staring down a full-blown geopolitical emergency. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? What is really going on?
This is the big question we're going to unpack. It's a crisis that isn't showing up in the headlines or at the gas pump. Well, not yet, anyway. But its shockwaves are already being felt in the places that matter most. All right, let's get right into it. To really get a handle on this crisis, we first have to understand why it feels so, well, invisible. Why is it that, despite government red alerts, life for most people just seems to be carrying on as usual? Well, it really boils down to three powerful, kind of psychological shields. First, there's the price shield. Nations are tapping into their strategic reserves, which means the price you're paying at the pump hasn't gone through the roof, for now. Second, there are no official travel bans, right? So that creates this false sense of security. And third, what looks like a normal holiday is actually something experts are calling proximity tourism. A lot of families are taking shorter trips, already kind of bracing for higher costs down the road. So what's fascinating is that we can trace this entire global panic back to one single, tiny, critical choke point on the map. This is ground zero. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz. And let's be clear, this isn't just another shipping lane, it is the world's primary energy artery. Any disruption here isn't a small problem. It's what you'd call a checkmate scenario for the global economy. A single blockage here can hold the entire system hostage. And here's why. A staggering 20%, 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply, plus a massive amount of natural gas, squeezes through this narrow strait every single day. Shutting that down isn't like turning off a tap. It's like severing a major artery of the global economy. And this is the immediate fallout. Analysts are already projecting that if this blockade lasts for more than a month, crude oil could rocket past $150 a barrel. Now, that kind of price shock would trigger massive unsustainable inflation and almost certainly push the European economy into a deep, painful recession. So while you might not be feeling it at the pump yet, the markets are absolutely screaming. For traders, for energy companies, for governments, believe me, this invisible crisis is already very, very visible. So how is all this market panic translating into real-world action? Well, authorities across Europe aren't just sitting around waiting for this thing to blow over. They're hitting the brakes, and they are hitting them hard. The European Commission has just rolled out a whole series of emergency directives. And just to be clear, these are not suggestions, they are mandates. We're talking a mandatory 10-kilometer-per-hour speed limit reduction on all highways, an immediate stop to all fuel subsidies, and the activation of emergency energy saving plans, which now makes a 1.5% annual reduction in energy use a binding legal requirement. And this is where you really start to see a two-speed Europe emerging in how countries are responding. France is mandating remote work. Germany is capping the heat in public buildings. Spain is cutting commercial lighting. But then you have Italy, which is practicing what some are calling strategic silence to try and keep everyone calm during the holiday. You see, Italy's outward calm is a huge, calculated gamble. The government is betting that it can ride out the storm by using its 90-day strategic oil reserves, but the clock is ticking. This strategy only works if the crisis gets resolved in under 3 months. If they've bet wrong, the economic fallout could be absolutely devastating. But, every crisis creates an opportunity, and this one has a massive and pretty unexpected side effect. This threat to fossil fuels is actually triggering a huge, rapid acceleration toward a green future. You don't have to look any further than the UK. The data from just last month shows this record-breaking surge in green tech adoption. Solar installations are up 54%, heat pump sales jumped 51%, and requests for electric vehicles shot up 36%. People are looking for a way out, and they're finding it in renewables. And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the matter. This crisis is fundamentally changing the conversation. Green technology is no longer just an ecological choice. It's now being seen as a foundation for economic and national security. It's about independence. And this isn't just happening in the UK. Take Italy, for example, a country that's heavily dependent on gas from the Hormuz region. A brand new analysis shows that it has a clear path forward. By fast-tracking its existing green energy plans, Italy could replace 85% of that gas in just 1 year. The solution is already there.
So what does this all mean for you? What happens next week when the holiday is over, the traffic clears, and those strategic reserves start to look a little bit smaller? What happens when the invisible crisis finally becomes visible to everyone? Well, the post-holiday reality is probably going to hit in a few stages. First, a chain reaction of price hikes on pretty much everything from logistics to groceries. Then, if the blockade continues, we could actually see forced savings measures like fuel rationing. And through it all, electric vehicles, especially the ones you can charge at home with solar, are going to go from a nice-to-have to an absolutely vital lifeline for energy independence. Which leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. This doesn't just feel like another temporary price spike. This feels different. Could this crisis be the event that marks the permanent end of cheap, globally sourced fossil fuels being the bedrock of our entire economy? What's really clear is that the ground is shifting right under our feet, and the future of energy is being reshaped as we speak. Thanks for joining me to explore what's really happening just beneath the surface. It's been great having you with us.